OMSCo is a cooperative of hundreds of dairy farms, all producing organic milk which is sold in shops and supermarkets, not just as milk, but also as cheese, yoghurt, cream, butter and ice cream. Our farms are found all around the UK, but one of the best areas for dairy farming is the West Country. So we're here at Bowden Farm in Devon to spend the day with organic farmer Russell Ashford and his herd of pedigree Ayrshire cows. Dairy cows are generally milked twice a day, so Russell starts work at 6 a.m. when he goes to get the cows in for the morning milking. His day doesn't finish until at least 7 p.m. after the evening milking. This has to be done every day of the year, even Christmas Day. And in between milkings there are loads of other jobs to be done around the farm to ensure the animals stay safe and secure and the land stays fertile.
To my mind, organic farming is really going back to basics. It's farming in a way that doesn't compromise the environment. It's farming in a way that you're at harmony with everything around you, the wildlife, the countryside, all plants, trees, flowers, birds, all the wildlife. It's farming without artificial means, farming without genetically modified food in the animal's diet. It's really, like I say, going back to basics and doing things as naturally as we possibly can.
There are 80 cows in this herd. They all have names and Russell knows every one of them and their individual personalities. Together they produce around 480,000 litres of organic milk a year. That's about 6,000 litres per cow. To be able to do this, the cows need to eat lots of rich grasses, and there's around 40 hectares of grassland here. All Russell's cows spend as much of the year as possible out in the fields. There is a dairy system known as zero grazing, where cows never go outside, but this isn't allowed on organic farms. As well as standing and grazing, you'll also see them lying down and chewing the cud like this. It's a sign of a healthy, contented cow, and all that extra chewing helps with digestion. If you and I ate nothing but grass and green plants, we would find it impossible to digest. But cows are what we call ruminant animals. They have a special enzyme and 4 separate stomachs to help them convert tough, fibrous plants into nutritious food. But there's not just grass in this field, there are other plants too, including lots of clover. Clover is what we call a nitrogen-fixing plant. This means that it can take nitrogen from the air and put it into the soil. Nitrogen's vital to keep the grass growing, and on non-organic farms is put onto the land in the form of artificial fertiliser. The production of nitrogen fertiliser is very energy consuming and not at all environmentally friendly. Organic farmers like Russell have to use natural methods to fertilise the land. By the way, some clovers also help to increase the levels of a health-giving substance called omega-3 in the milk. Before a cow can produce milk, she has to give birth to a calf. At Bowden, calves are born all year round, and after the calves leave their mothers, they are kept together in groups. The mother then joins the milking cows, but the calves are still fed on fresh whole milk, either from a bucket like this, or from a nurse cow like this one. Denham is 14 years old, and she no longer gives enough milk to be part of the dairy herd, but she, and older cows like her, make great foster mums. In general, cows do tend to live longer on organic farms because they're kept more naturally.
Here at Bowden Farm we run a herd of pedigree Ayrshire cows. This means that every cow has its own name. We know them individually. Sometimes I'm asked, how can you know 80 cows separately? And the reason is, I think if you're working with them all of the time, it's a bit like being a teacher in a large classroom of children. You get to know each one and all their individual personalities. With our cows, for example, we're milking them twice a day, every day, and feeding them, looking after them throughout the day. If they're in the yards in the winter, you're bedding up and feeding them by hand, so you very quickly learn to, which animal's which and all the different peculiarities.
Female calves are called heifers, and they'll eventually have a calf of their own and join the milking herd. Male calves on this farm are raised for beef, staying out at grass until they're at least 2.5 years old. Russell also keeps sheep, and he sells both beef and lamb at the local farmer's market. Once a cow has given birth, she'll continue to be milked for around 10 months, by which time she'll be in calf again. She then has a 2-month rest so she can save extra energy before having the calf. Cows that are not being milked are called dry cows. Here are some being fed. Every morning and every evening the cows are brought into the milking parlour to be milked. They know the routine and look forward to coming into the parlour. These are called clusters, and they attach to the teats on the cow's udder by suction and then gently squeeze to get the milk to flow. You can see it collecting in the jar. Hygiene is very important, so while the cows are being milked, the parlour's kept clean and each cow's teats and udder are wiped to ensure they're clean too. The clusters are sterilised at the end of each milking session. The milk is channelled from the parlour into the dairy, where there's a large container called a bulk tank, which cools the milk and keeps it chilled until it's collected from the farm. When the cows come in for milking, they make a lot of mess. So while Russell is working in the parlour, his wife Sandy uses the tractor to scrape the farmyard clean. This cow muck is then moved to a large container called a slurry lagoon. Slurry makes an excellent natural fertiliser, so it's spread back onto the land where it helps to keep the soil healthy and the grass growing. It's late autumn now, and it's not long before the cows will be brought in for the winter months. Just like us, cows don't like being out in the worst of the winter weather. The grass loses its goodness when there's no sun, and the fields get very muddy. In the last couple of years there's been heavy snow here too. The herd will now spend a few months in a large barn with lots of bedding, and they'll be fed on silage. Silage is pickled grass which has been cut in the summer and stored in a clamp like this one. It's also kept in bales as well. This conserves the sugars in the grass, and it's higher in energy than ordinary hay. Each year, Russell keeps some fields for growing grass just for silage, and he will cut and bale this 2 or 3 times during the summer. Fields used for grazing some years will be used to grow grass for silage other years. This is called rotation, and it's a natural way of keeping the land healthy and not using up all the goodness in the soil. Another job for Russell, now we're in November, is to check the hedges around the farm. Hedges need cutting back to keep them dense enough to stop animals getting through. There are very strict regulations on how organic hedges are looked after. They can't be cut in the summer when birds and insects are nesting and breeding, nor can they be cut every year, as this would make it hard for them to produce the flowers and fruit that wildlife depend on for food. This means hedges on organic farms are excellent places for wildlife. There are more birds, butterflies, beetles, bats and wildflowers on organic farms. This is partly because of practices like this, and also because the use of artificial chemical pesticides is prohibited. Organic farmers find they can keep pest insects at bay by allowing their natural predators to thrive. A bat, for instance, eats around 3,000 insects in one night. And there are lots of bats here, including the very rare greater horseshoe bat.
Very proud of the wildlife that we've got on our farm, and like to think that we're farming in a way that actually complements and encourages all the wildlife. We're very proud of the fact that we've got greater horseshoe bats that feed on our farm, and this is because of the canopies that we've got growing on our hedges. We've also got lots of hedgehogs, lots of wild flowers that you don't see on many other farms, and also birds that I know that are now endangered. We've still got them visiting our farm, and I like to think it's because of the way that we're farming.
Every 2 days, a tanker arrives to pick up the milk from the bulk tank. Before he loads the milk, the driver takes a sample for testing. This will show if there's any harmful bacteria or antibiotics in the milk. The use of antibiotics is very restricted on organic farms, and if any trace is found in the milk, it'll have to be thrown away. Some scientists believe that the overuse of antibiotics is a factor in the increase of diseases such as MRSA that are resistant to antibiotic treatment. The other thing the tanker driver will check is the temperature of the milk, which needs to be 5 degrees centigrade or less. If it isn't cool enough, then he won't be able to take it. The milk is safely on its way, and Russell's working day is coming to an end. So we're going to leave Bowden now. but we'll be back in spring to see the cows as they go out for the first time after the winter.